that helps them blend in with the snow and ice. And that thick layer of blubber that surrounds their entire body, but maybe not all of it as we see here from the tail fluke. But that thick layer of blubber comes about from the fact that these belugas eat a fair amount of food. Now, here in the Vancouver Aquarium, they eat things like herring, capelin, and squid. But up in the Arctic, if it gets a bit tougher to find this kind of food, belugas have been able to adapt to eat other items like crabs, clams, and worms found hidden in the sandy ocean floor. But how is it that these belugas find that food if they don't have any hands to dig through the sand? Well, keep your eyes here in the center and watch Kavna up front. Of course, Keela's showing it off for me here up front, but Kavna is not done. You gotta admit, that's pretty impressive. Let's give Kavna a round of applause. You see, these belugas, they can hold large volumes of water in their mouth, and because they have flexible lips, unlike most other whales and dolphins, they can spit into the sand. That helps them uncover the tasty food hidden underneath. It's really a great adaptation, but along with several others. But of course, belugas are not the only animals that are well adapted to survive in the Arctic. There are, of course, your iconic polar bears and seals and walruses, but there are other species, like Arctic fox, Arctic hare, caribou, a number of species of birds such as ptarmigan, gerfalcons, puffins, and then of course there are even people. That we use, because every time we use energy we produce a certain amount of carbon dioxide gas which makes its way up into the Earth's atmosphere, causing it to become thicker. It's almost like wrapping a great big blanket around Earth, and it's been causing things to change. In fact, we communicate with a number of communities up north, such as the inlet or the hamlet of Pond Inlet on the northern part of Baffin Island. And the residents there have indicated to us that during the summer months they're finding that the ice around their homes is melting faster and faster and faster. During the winter, it's taking longer and longer to freeze back over again. Well, what exactly does that mean for those communities or belugas like these? Well, as that open mouth shows us, it's all about food. Because growing on that Arctic ice is algae, and the algae kickstarts the entire Arctic food web. Because feeding on the algae are little Arctic invertebrates. Feeding on those Arctic invertebrates are fish. And feeding on those fish are energetic belugas like Aurora here along the front glass area. So Aurora and Keela both have definitely been eating their fish. The problem, of course, in the Arctic is that with less ice, it means less algae. Less algae means less invertebrates, which means less fish, which means it's going to get a lot tougher for some of these belugas to survive. Now, not all belugas are found in the high Arctic, however. Some belugas can be found a little bit closer to home. The most southern population of belugas is found in the St. Lawrence River in Quebec. I don't suppose we have any visitors today from eastern Canada, perhaps around the St. Lawrence? A few, all right. So those of you visiting from that area, do any of you include beluga as part of your regular diet? No, not so much. I didn't think so. So people out east don't rely on belugas as part of their diet, but some people rely on them economically. There's a number of whale watching tours and companies that make their way out hoping to catch a glimpse of these beautiful white whales. But if you ever do head to the St. Lawrence, you won't catch a beluga leap like that from Kavna. That was a beluga leap. You didn't sound that impressed. So we're going to try again with Aurora. Okay, all right, ladies and gentlemen, you still don't sound that impressed. So let me put it to you this way. How high would you jump with a mattress of fat wrapped around you? Kavna and Aurora, they did a fantastic job. Let's give them a round of applause. It's a lot of effort for a beluga whale. That really, if you head to the St. Lawrence again, you're not going to see beluga leaps and jumps. But what you will likely see is something along the lines of this. It doesn't look like a lot. Right now we're seeing the backs of these animals, but that view is actually important. Along Aurora's back, you might have noticed an area called a dorsal ridge. Nikki has her hand on Keela's dorsal ridge right now. And Keela's dorsal ridge is nice and smooth, but Aurora and Kavna, their dorsal ridges have a few notches and nicks along it. These differences can allow researchers to track the population. And it's become really important to do so because those St. Lawrence belugas have been listed as threatened. They face dangers that their Arctic counterparts do not, like noise and pollution. Because the St. Lawrence is, fed into by the entire Great Lakes region in and around Ontario and Quebec. So any chemicals and toxins in those areas, which can be quite a lot, end up draining into the St. Lawrence, into the water supply, into smaller filter feeders, and then ultimately into the big blubbery bodies of belugas like Aurora. And though Aurora is looking pretty healthy this afternoon, the belugas of the St. Lawrence aren't always so. In fact, if they wash up on shore after passing away, they're considered biohazardous waste due to all the chemicals that built up in their bodies. But I did mention another issue can be noise, particularly in the shallows and estuaries that belugas often frequent during the summer months. Shallows and estuaries are places where rivers and oceans meet, and it's a great place for belugas to go in the summers. They're all often molting off an outer layer of skin. This can be a rather itchy process, so sometimes they like to rub up against the bottom, and doing so can make the waters a little bit murky. So it gets sometimes a little bit tougher to see, but instead belugas can rely on echolocation or other forms of communication. Belugas are actually really very noisy, and we might be able to hear a few of these beluga sounds here. Now I gotta say, we got a pretty fantastic beluga symphony there. Yes, we